thought you said the Minnesota Wild were boring! Yeah, I mean, they were, like, 2 years ago. What, like, that much can change in 2 years? Oh, right, the world. Let's go! Ladies and gentlemen, it's a little ridiculous. Good boy. Play all the hits! Left the Toronto Maple Leafs. Let me finish. How am I supposed to go to bed after watching that? I'm quite hyped. With you wherever you are, welcome to LFR. Leafs! Half win. I don't know. They got a point, and they didn't lose in overtime. The shootout's not really a thing. Anyway, the game ended 4-3, and the Minnesota Wild got 2 points. No, we're not going to complain about the shootout. We don't do that when the Leafs lose in the shootout. It doesn't mean the shootout is good, or even an acceptable thing to have. If you've been watching my LFR videos, that's Leafs fan reaction videos, for a few years, you know when we complain about the shootout. That's right, we complain about the shootout when the Leafs win in the shootout. Because that way no one can accuse you of just, oh, you're crying because they lost. No, actually they won and I'm criticizing it because it's bad! And we will get to that. Let's talk about this game. And gosh, what a ridiculous game. First of all, this morning, oh my god, what chaos. Well, let's start, this all starts yesterday. If you were listening to the most recent episode of the Steve Dangle podcast on SDPN, you can follow on Spotify and YouTube and all that stuff. At the very end, we discovered in basically real time that Mitch Marner left Leaf practice early because he had a collision with Jake Muzzin. They exchanged some words that were slightly heated before Mitch Marner left the ice. Today, the next day, this morning, it was announced that 3 players were essentially game time decisions. Ondrej Kase, Morgan Rielly, and Mitch Marner. Now, Ondrej Kase played and looked great. Morgan Rielly played more than any other Leaf. He played over 26 minutes. Mitch Marner did not play. So what Sheldon Keefe opted to do, Joey Anderson slots into the lineup on the 4th line, and instead of breaking things up, he simply puts Wayne Simmonds on the top line with Austin Matthews and Michael Bunting, leaving the Tavares line intact. Now, I actually kind of like that. We found a better line later in the game. But to begin the game, a back and forth affair that wasn't exactly high event, but it got chippier as it went. The main chippiness starting with about 2 minutes to go in the first period. Austin Matthews gets hit by Jordan Greenway. It wasn't a huge hit, but it knocked Austin Matthews down to the ice. Michael Bunting gets in Jordan Greenway's face, which is a horrible idea because Michael Bunting is Michael Bunting and Jordan Greenway is 6'6", over 230 pounds. So Wayne Simmonds jumps in and he says, I'll fight you. And then Marcus Foligno says, no, I'll fight you. And then somehow out of all of that, it's Simmonds and Foligno who fight. There was some discussion of Marcus Foligno. Will he or won't he potentially get kicked out of the game or even suspended because he left the bench? And not really, and personally, I don't think he should be suspended. Basically what happened, Foligno is leaving the ice, he puts his legs over the board, he discovers the brouhaha, and instead of going off, he comes back on and he ends up fighting with Wayne Simmonds. Now, if a bunch of Wild players poured onto the ice or Marcus Foligno's replacement got involved in the altercation, then maybe I'd feel a little differently. I had some people complaining, well, David Clarkson got 10 games for whatever he did all those years ago. You know, we don't talk about enough for that era. How dumb that suspension was. Yeah, Clarkson was dumb for leaving the bench, getting a 10-game suspension for leaving the bench for a fight, but he didn't leave the bench for a fight, did he? He took off his gloves and held John Scott, which is, yeah, he's 6'7" and his primary job was to beat people up. And he didn't throw a single punch. So for taking off his gloves and holding someone, preventing them from punching another human being in the head, he got suspended for the equivalent of 2 bites. And by 2 bites, I mean 4, because Brendan Lemieux bit Brady Tkachuk at least twice and only got suspended for 5 games. By that math, you could bite someone 4 times and get suspended the equivalent of David Clarkson giving you a hug. So if a 10-game suspension was stupid then, it was stupid here. Don't worry about it. Don't focus on that. Focus on what happened with about 30 seconds to go in the period. And with about 30 seconds to go, holy cow. No complaints. The Leafs are top 5 in the NHL. They're doing really well. They came back from a 3-goal deficit in this game. But the alleged shutdown pair of Muzzin and Hall is shocking! Honestly, in a season, especially early in the season, where there have been some contenders, this might have been that pairing's worst game of the season. First of all, if you watch the replay, the puck is in the Minnesota Wild zone, and you can see Jake Muzzin counting like 1, 2, 3. Oh, there's someone behind me! Rushes back, that puts him behind the 8 ball to begin with. That allows Duane to help the Wild set up. But Joel Eriksson Ek, who had a really good game for the Minnesota Wild, is able to set up shop in front. Well, not allowed. I mean, Justin Hall was there. He had his, hand on him. And about a month ago, Hall was involved in more trade rumors, and I was talking to someone about it, and one of the things they mentioned was, well, besides the fact that he's cheap and right-handed, he's also big. Big for the purpose of what? Yes, he is making body contact with Joel Eriksson Ek in front of the net, but I've had people lean on me harder on public transit. You know, when someone loses their balance on the subway, excuse me, do things! While you're out there, do things! When you're on the bench, you can stop doing things. Even on the bench, you should maybe do some things. But he's essentially not doing things, which allowed the Wild to do things. They fired it on, Eriksson Ek got a piece of it, and then Jordan Greenway is able to bury the rebound that Jack Campbell almost got, by the way. But the shot and rebound shouldn't have existed in the first place. That pairing, shocking on that goal. And the Leafs head into intermission down. We head into the second period, and a penalty-heavy second begins. 34 seconds in, Morgan Rielly takes a penalty on Kaprizov, killed off. Kevin Fiala hooks TJ Brody, the Leafs can't capitalize. Andre Kasha takes a tripping call, the Wild go back to the power play. We're less than 5 minutes in. On the power play, the Minnesota Wild working it around. Matt Zuccarello throws a pass into the slot. I would get on Justin Hall for knocking the puck into his own net, but Zuccarello throws it into the slot. It goes off of Hall's skate, and he couldn't have deflected it into his own net more perfectly if he tried. Honestly, I'm more mad about the first goal. The first goal is just that pair playing bad. This goal is just the hockey gods looking down on you and laughing. But it's okay, the Leafs get their act together as soon as, nope, just joking, they go immediately back on the penalty kill, Travis Dermott this time. And they do actually manage to kill that one, but shortly after, off the faceoff in the Leaf zone, this play is actually all Marcus Foligno and a little bit of help from the ref. TJ Brody gets the puck and tries to clear it. He can't because Marcus Foligno bats it down. Joel Eriksson Ek catches it out of midair, shoots it on, blocked by Austin Matthews. Puck is deflected right into the official. It hits him, drops right onto Marcus Foligno's stick, rifles it past Jack Campbell, and I gotta imagine the sudden bounce when you're expecting the puck to go into the corner was a factor, but the fact of the matter is, Foligno scores, and the Leafs are down 3-0 on the road without Mitch Marner. Oh dear. And I gotta say, Christmas is coming. All right? Christmas is coming. And there's a lot of Leaf fans watching this, and a lot of people who are shopping for Leafs fans. Who do you want? Who do you want? There's not a lot of Jack Campbell jerseys out there. There's a lot of Anderson ones. Campbell hasn't been around as long, so maybe you want a Campbell. There's a lot of Tavares jerseys out there. There's a ton. There's a ton of Matthews. There's a ton of Marner. There's a ton of Nylander. There's a ton of Rielly. There's Nylander in like 3 different numbers. But who else could you get? Oh, you could get anybody. I've seen Muzzin jerseys. I saw a guy hang a Wayne Simmons jersey in his window. But if I had to get just one Leaf with the nameplate on the back, right now, it's Jason Spezza. And I have said this. If you've been watching LFR, if you've been watching my podcast, you know I've said this. It is unbelievable over the past few seasons how many games the Leafs have looked like garbage. And the best Leaf is Jason Spezza. It's almost like he plays his best hockey when the team has forgotten how to play. Leafs are down 3-0 in Game 4 in the bubble against Columbus. Who gets in a fight? Jason Spezza. What was that game? It was the second last game. I think it was the Kaskisuo game. Babcock's second last game. Who was the only Leaf who scored? It was Spezza. There was some garbage game against the Penguins, and it was Spezza who scored. There are games where the Leafs are not there, but Jason Spezza is. And wherever the Leafs fall in the standings at the end of the season, just remember this one game is a point that Jason Spezza gifted his hockey team. And for this goal, let's be honest, It's a fluke. Like, it shouldn't have gone in, but it did. It's a little example, though, of making your own luck, isn't it? Fourth line on the ice. It's Jason Spezza, Nick Ritchie, and Wayne Simmonds. They win the face-off, scrambles. It ends up behind the Minnesota Wild net, and there's a battle for it. Wayne Simmonds is in there, Nick Ritchie is in there, and Ritchie, though he is knocked down to his knees, he finds a way to knock it into the other corner, and Jason Spezza comes out with it. Spezza whips it in from the corner, off a Wild defender's leg, and off of Cam Talbot's head, and into the net! Jason Spezza, Daddy, puts the Leafs on the board. So yes, we're acknowledging that it was a fluke goal for Spezza, but the fourth line, Nick Ritchie behind the net in particular, helped the Leafs make their own luck. And while I'm giving him a little bit of shine here, Nick Ritchie has 6 points in 25 games. None of them are goals. That's bad. I think you know that part. The part you probably don't know is he has 4 assists in his last 6 games. I know that's not remarkable, but it's also not 2 points in, what would it be, 19 games? People are talking about trade him, get rid of him, waive him. He's just starting to play okay, guys. Like, he's had a bunch of moments where he could have scored, but they were in games where he didn't look very good. I think he's playing fine. Nick Ritchie's playing fine, whether he's on the third line or the fourth line. Off in the fourth line, he's at very least playing a role, and he can play second power play unit. All I'm saying is don't give up on him now. He's just starting to figure it out. And speaking of starting to figure it out, all right, about 5 minutes later, the Leafs are on the power play. Jordy Ben roughing on John Tavares, and what a roughing. That's a dumb penalty. They're cutting down on cross-checks in front of the net. They're definitely cutting back on punches to the back of the head, brainwave. And the Leafs make him pay, and I'm glad they do, because good. Jason Spezza, who is slowly finding his way onto the top unit with Matthews, is actually on the top power play unit in place of Marner. This is actually a really heads-up play. I can only show you with screenshots because I can't show you the actual footage, but I think it might make it better. The Leafs are working it around. They're looking for a shot that makes sense. All right, let's look at what we got here. Let's look at the triangle on the right side of the screen. Morgan Rielly has the puck. There's Matthews waiting there by the Loeffler sign, whatever that is, by the Bud Light. And there's Jason Spezza waiting there right in the middle with Marcus Foligno. He has his hand on his back. Note that on the clock there is 2:12 remaining. Now 2:11 remaining. Morgan Rielly has made his pass. Matthews is teeing up the slap shot, but Foligno has pushed Spezza out of his way just a few feet. Matthews reads this super quick. Spezza reads this super quick, winds up, and it's not just that Matthews realized it in time, it's that he realized it in time to give Spezza a perfect pass, and Spezza released a perfect shot. 2:10 left in the period. The puck trickles in with just about 2:09 remaining in the period, but that is a 2 or 3 second sequence of mastery on the power play, and it's the difference for how they've looked this season. A pair of goals from vintage Jason Spezza, and all of a sudden the Leafs are within 1. Could they tie it in the third? No, because they didn't have to. Alex Goligoski takes a penalty on Wayne Simmonds. How dare you? Jason Spezza has the puck, and Austin Matthews is a young player in this league, but he is smart enough to know one thing. If Spezza has his stick on the puck, you have your stick on the ice. Spezza to Matthews. All Matthews has to he kisses the puck with his stick, and it's in! 3-3 tie before the intermission, and the Leafs head into the third with a pair of threes on the board. Leafs out shooting the Wild 20-7 in the second period. Yeah, it got a little wild, followed by a third period in which the Minnesota Wild outshot the Leafs 22-11. Because less than 5 minutes in, Morgan Rielly takes a penalty on Joel Eriksson-Ek, and then David Kempf takes a penalty on Joel Eriksson-Ek. Everyone stay away from the guy with 3 names! And it is a 5-on-3 penalty kill for over a minute and 40. For as much as I didn't like the Hall and Muzzin pair in this game, I have to say credit where credit is due. They were out there for this thing. And in absence of David Kempf, who is exactly the guy you would want out there as the forward killing a 5-on-3, Alexander Kerfoot filled in wonderfully. I thought he had a really underratedly good, tenacious, smart game. He's been underrated this entire season. The Leafs kill that off, and this game is dragged into overtime. Now, we're going to have a little bit of a moan, because I saw a lot of people talking about the officiating in this game. We're mad about the officiating. I'm not mad about the officiating. I'm not. One call. I have a problem with 2 things, And one of them's a call, or rather not a call, and the other is something that would require a change in the rules, but we'll get there in a minute. Marcus Foligno driving the net, a really good scoring chance, and almost buries the game for the Minnesota Wild. He runs straight over Jack Campbell, though, and it is absolutely a penalty. It's goalie interference. Here's the long and short of it. If he scores there, it doesn't even count. He's not pushed into Jack Campbell. Jack Campbell is in the blue paint, and he runs directly into Jack Campbell's brain. When asked about it after the game, by the way, Campbell said he was fine after getting run by Foligno in the third. I feel great. I enjoy a little contact here and there. God, Jack Campbell is the Jack Campbelliest. Like, he really is a Care Bear. He really has perfected the demeanor of, like, how do I describe him? Like a bench player in a football movie who makes his way onto the starting roster with his good attitude and then becomes the star. Is there a movie like that? You get the vibe though, right? Anyway, I thought that should have been a penalty. It didn't have much of an outcome on the end of the game. It's not like the Leafs had to kill a penalty off. It's not like they were without Jack Campbell, and he said he was fine, so I choose to believe him until proven otherwise. But I do have a problem with something here. One, I have a problem with the idea that Jason Spezza dove Jonas Brodin / Jason Spezza in overtime, and the reason the ref called it slashing is because it was. Some people called it embellishing. It didn't look the hardest, I will grant you that. But it's in a very sensitive area. It's between where the glove cuts off and where the elbow pad ends. I don't know a ton, but I know enough to know that hurts! And for everyone who said he was embellishing, Spezza wasn't available for the rest of the game after that slash, but he did do his post-game availability with his arm covered in ice. It got me in the nerve. Scary for about 10 seconds, but it will be fine. Just got it checked out and it looks good. No, but I'm sure he dove and took himself out of a game that ended up going to the shootout when he is a typical shootout shooter for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Oh, and he probably didn't want to play on the 4-on-3 power play in a game where he had 3 points, including points on every single Leafs goal. Oh yeah, he dove for sure. No, you know what? Here, Leaf fans, Wild fans, let's not fight. Here, let's talk about things that we have in common. For example, after this game, we both look at Jason Spezza as a father figure. He dove 1,200 NHL games. A minute to go, he had 3 points. They head to the power play in a game that was a minute away from the shootout, and he dove. Stop it! Stop it right now! You should be embarrassed. Okay, here's my thing. A lot of people have been saying, continuous overtime. They're never going to do that. Well, what about 10 minutes of 3-on-3 overtime? They probably won't do that. They might. They probably won't. All right. What about 7 minutes of 3-on-3 overtime? Well, that's only 2 extra minutes. How about this? If a team takes a penalty, the overtime continues until the penalty expires. Minnesota Wild took this slashing penalty on Jason Spezza with about 59 seconds to go in the overtime period, meaning the Leafs, who almost gave up a shorthanded goal as the overtime winner, we'll just ignore that part, but the Leafs only had 59 seconds to work on the power play. Hear me out. In a situation like that, and I would say this if it happened against the Leafs as well, there should be a minute and 1 second added on to the overtime. Why not? It would sure make it interesting, wouldn't it? You'd definitely get more resolutions to games. You'd have more overtime ends. You'd have games that end in goals. Leave a comment in the comment box down below. What do you think? I think it's neat. Anyway, the game goes to a shootout. Matt Zuccarello, nice move, scores. Austin Matthews, nice move, ties it up. Kirill Kaprizov, nasty move. Jack Campbell gets a piece of it, but it's not enough. And the Leafs fall to the Minnesota Wild in the shootout. What are you going to do? They probably shouldn't have got a point. Remember, they were down 3-0. Hopefully, they can get at least a point on the second half of the back-to-back against the Jets. Questions. Now, before I show you this first question, Dean Evason, who is the head coach of the Minnesota Wild. You know what I did not appreciate? Is him laughing and shaking his head with Jason Spezza leaving the game because of the slash. You know, some fan at home just lazily calls someone a diver. Whatever. You're an NHL coach calling someone with 1,200 games experience and 3 points in the game that you were playing in a diver. And I hate it. Can I show you his face? Can I show you his face? Look at this face. Look at all of this face. Shut up. Look at the face he's making. That's not even, his face isn't making sounds, and I want it to shut up. Look at this shut up face. Shut up. But anyway, sorry, I'm being childish. Our first question comes from Dan. Can you hear the screaming of the lambs, Clarice? A census taker once tried to test me. I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti. Dean. Shut up, Dean. You're so ambitious, aren't you? You know what you look like to me with your good bag and your cheap shoes? You look like a rube. A well-scrubbed, hustling rube with a little taste. Listen, he's a good coach who does a good job. I hate his face in that context. Don't smirk at Jason Spezza's pain! This isn't a question, but it bears repeating because it came up tonight. Every Leaf fan remembers that Jason Spezza was scratched for opening night in 2019. But do you know what the fourth line was that night? It was Dmytro Timashov, Nick Shore, and Freddie Gauthier. He didn't play over Dmytro Timashov, Nick Shore, or Frederick Gauthier! You know, in all the Babcock interviews that we've read in recent months, no one ever asked him about that incident and whether or not he's dumb. Can we start removing the boring label on the Wild? I believe that label was removed the moment Kirill Kaprizov set foot on North American ice. Yeah. No, it is not just him, but it started with him big time. Is it just me, or does it seem like every time Hall touches the puck, something goes disastrously wrong? I want to like him, but every time I notice him, it's not for a good thing. Well, Dermott, I thought, was fine, and Liljegren wasn't playing in this game. That game was bad enough that it could potentially warrant him not playing, at least tomorrow against the Jets, and maybe not for a couple after that. Fascinated by what Sheldon Keefe might do, especially because Morgan Riley was a game-time decision heading into this one, and he just played 26 minutes, and Mitch Marner sounds like won't play. Also, who the heck is going to start, Woll or Hutchinson? Last but not least, producer Drew says, we now have a common enemy, the Wild. And Dean Evason's face. Stop it. Shut up your face. I don't care if he's in a room by himself saying nothing. I hope he shuts up. Anyway, that is it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. Click like if you like this video. Click subscribe if you really liked it. Tell all your friends. Jason Spezza, national treasure. Would he ever dive? No. Shut up.